he was removed shortly after exercising his right as a citizen to raise concerns about his daughter's seventh grade high school curriculum being changed to include biased coursework on politics, race, gender equality, and diversity. So it was all left wing propaganda. And of course, they snuck this in. They didn't tell the parents. He said, "What's going on?" And boom, he gets fired. So we also filed a lawsuit, and these are lawsuits that I'm especially proud of because we get to represent in this case just a regular American citizen, a father, a patriot, a parent. It's David Flynn. He was a coach for Dedham High School in Massachusetts, and his football coach. By all accounts, well loved, well respected. You know, the sorts of he's almost like the very image that you have of a football coach. You know, someone who's loved by his players, just has the respect of the community. But he ran into the racialist left up there in Massachusetts. And we filed a federal lawsuit on his behalf because he was fired after objecting to the race-based propaganda, BLM, critical race theory propaganda that was being taught his seventh grade daughter. And we filed a federal lawsuit against the school district, Dedham School District, that fired him. His name is David Flynn. He's a father. He and his wife. They have among their family. They had a child in seventh grade, and he had been a football coach for Dedham High School, I think, for 10 plus years. And he was removed shortly after exercising his right as a citizen to raise concerns about his daughter's seventh grade high school curriculum being changed to include biased coursework on politics, race, gender equality, and diversity. So it was all left-wing propaganda. And of course, they snuck this in. They didn't tell the parents. He said, "What's going on?" And boom, he gets fired. I guess that's not how the lawyers would describe it, but that's how I'm describing it. Was filed up in Massachusetts. We seek damages against the superintendent, the high school principal, and the high school athletic director for retaliating against Flynn for exercising his First Amendment rights. And this is what was going on in his daughter's class. In September 2020, Flynn's daughter's seventh grade history class, which is listed as World Geography and Ancient History. So this is World Geography and Ancient History. And they add in secretly, in a surprise way, without informing the parents, this left-wing propaganda. The lawsuit explains, in one assignment, plaintiff's daughter, Coach Flynn's daughter, was asked to consider various risk factors and mitigating factors that two people, one identified as, quote, white, and the other identified as quote, black, purportedly might use to assess each other on a city street, including among the various factors were skin color, gender, age, physical appearance, and attire. Black, aggressive language, and wrong neighborhood were among the risk factors purportedly assessed by the person identified as white. White and police officer were among the risk factors purportedly assessed by the person identified as black. Concerned about the abrupt change in the curriculum, Flynn and his wife contacted the history teacher and the principal of the school. On more than one occasion, the Flynns asked for assistance in resolving the issues with the curriculum. Ultimately, in October 2020, they said, "You know what? We're going to remove our kids from the school." And they did. And this was their list of concerns. And let me read them to you and ask you if you find them to be unreasonable. And my guess is many of you listening to me now have probably had similar experiences or have had family members and friends who have faced similar experiences with the radical left agenda that's being now propagandized to our children in many of our nation's schools, both private and public. Dedham Public Schools changed the curriculum of the 7th grade history class without notifying parents or having a course description and syllabus available for parents to review. The new 7th grade history class curriculum containing coursework on politics, race, gender equality, and diversity that were not suitable for 12 and 13-year-olds. The 7th grade teacher not teaching topics of politics was not teaching topics of politics, race, gender equality, and diversity objectively. And it doesn't mean you can't talk about these issues. It just means you have to at least pretend to be neutral. Let me ask you if this sounds like being neutral. The teacher using a cartoon character of herself wearing a t-shirt supporting a controversial political movement, BLM. She had a BLM t-shirt on her cartoon avatar that she was using, or a picture of her that she was using for, I guess, some of these classes. And the teacher used class materials that labeled, as I said, all police officers as risks to Black people. And that all Black males as risks to white people. How does that sound to you like unity? Sounds like a curriculum designed to sow racial hatred and discord to me. So what happened is in January 2021, Flynn, who had been the high school football coach since, as I said, 2011, 10 years, was called into the office of the leadership of the school district and handed Flynn one of his emails complaining about this and said, "What are we going to do about this?" At the end of the meeting, Flynn was told that they were going in a different direction with the football player. And minutes later, they released a public statement stating that Flynn was removed as head football coach because he, quote, expressed significant philosophical differences with the directions, goals, and values of the school district. That's naked retaliation for exercising his First Amendment protected speech as a parent. And it wasn't like he was going crazy about it or saying anything inappropriate. He's a professional. He knows what he's doing. As I said, he's a widely respected member of his community. This is the way he would talk in his emails. And this is the quote. The superintendent has had the opportunity to make sure the Dedham school teachers conduct themselves as professionals and to teach the courses objectively and without biased opinions. He chose not to. I believe that the real men and women in the world are the ones who have the ability to compromise, especially in extremely controversial situations. Compromise allows people to experience life as a team. This is where unity brings individual pride together and relationships begin to strengthen. I believe all relationships are based on compromise. Does that sound to you like someone who you think should be fired from a high school football team? It sounds to me like he should be in a leadership position in the school district, frankly, given his approach. But that's the sort of language that got him fired. Really inappropriate. The superintendent was not willing to compromise. I explained to him that if the teacher teaches the course objectively and removes the BLM logo, the Black Lives Matter logo, from the class, people will soon get over the fact that the class was purposely created without notifying parents, without having a visible course curriculum, syllabus, and learning objective. Apparently, it does not mean much to him that the Dedham Public School system is losing two wonderful students, his kids that he and his wife took out. So Judicial Watch asked that the court award him damages. There have been several rallies that have been held by current and former students since he was fired. One former football player who had Coach Flynn as a coach said, "Everyone loves Coach. He gets kids to play football. Coach Flynn is an awesome guy, and we're all devastated that they fired him." So as I say in my quote, cancel culture has come to the football field. Coach Flynn was fired for exercising his constitutional rights to object to, as a citizen and a father, to an extremist and racially inflammatory school curriculum in his child's history class. So we just filed the lawsuit this week. We're represented by a local attorney, Andrew Coulter of Leominster, Massachusetts. So I appreciate his help in this regard. So we got a legal team here in Washington, D.C. We've got our local counsel up in Massachusetts, and we got the support, obviously, of the community there. We'll see what the courts do. And I hope the school district does the right thing here. Legally, I'm not sure what that's going to be because we're in the middle of a lawsuit, but there's been a lot of public attention to this since we brought it up. But this is a big issue. This critical race theory is fundamentally Marxist and communist. It should not be taught in the schools in the way that it's being taught here, in the least. It's racialist. It attacks and categorizes people based on race. I mean, when I say the left does not believe in racial equality. They don't. They say they oppose racial discrimination, but they don't. You see this in this type of curriculum. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I don't need to tell you. It goes on in our government, this type of training. It goes in our corporations, this type of training. It's only accelerated because of the refusal of our cultural class and our economic and political leadership to stand up to the Black Lives Matter movement. And when I say Black Lives Matter movement, I mean a Marxist communist hatred for America that smears America as systemic racist. Joe Biden believes it. Most left-wing politicians believe it. Most corporations mouth it. And it's being incorporated, and as Coach Flynn pointed out, secretly in our nation's schools. So I tell you what, if you have a child, a school-age child or a grandchild, you might ask what they're being taught about these issues, and just be sure that you're aware of it. Leftist indoctrination is permeating our schools, and it's not just public schools. It's not just public schools. It's private schools as well. And unless you're on the watch as a parent or a grandparent or an interested citizen whose tax dollars are being misused to indoctrinate innocent children, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And even if you object, they'll do it. In the case of Coach Flynn, you object, you get fired as a coach. So you can see a good reason to be upset about this type of thing.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.